I'm going to be giving my thesis as to where I think SPY is going to be heading for this coming week, March 17th. Let's get into it. First, the news coming up. Monday, we have nothing. Tuesday, good old CPI. Wednesday, we got PPI. And Thursday, we have jobless claims. Friday, consumer sentiment. Highlight of the week, obviously, is going to be CPI. So keep your head on the swivel for that. Let's take a look at the options market. For the week of 317, we have the max pain of 400. So keep your eyes open for that. Currently, we're at 387. Pretty big difference there in price. We have an insane amount of open interest on these contracts this week, obviously because of OPEX. So, got our work cut out for us this week. Again, Wall Street's going to be aiming to close the market, preferably, I'd assume, above 390 because they're not going to want to pay out this huge amount of open contracts in the 300 put level. So keep that in mind. So let's take a look at the charts now. See if any of this aligns and confuses with set options market. So it's the daily chart for SPY. Got that marked right there. 400 is going to be a pretty key level in my opinion. First, let's take a look at this long-term trend line that everyone's talking about. Obviously, this connects all the way back to all-time highs in SPY, and it's contained the whole bear market for the most part. Once it broke out of this long-term trend line, it came back down for a retest, and that's what triggered this giant bear market rally that led to a lot of bears capitulating. So it was a pretty substantial run we had up there. Evidently, it was a bear market rally because did sell off quite a bit on some pretty high volume. Now, that is one thing we want to talk about here is this insanely high volume day we had on Friday, which it broke through this other trend line that was marking the lows of the bear market. And actually we had a bit of an uptrend going on for quite some time since mid-October till as of recent, containing this bear market rally. And we did recently crack beneath it. Also, while we cracked beneath it, we cracked the 200-day moving average, which is it's kind of a big deal. I don't usually trade off 200-day moving averages, but it's just one of those things you got to also keep an eye on. Now, we are below 200-day moving average. This previous day, or this most recent day on Friday, we did open up and go for a retest of the 200-day moving average. Got rejected, sold through its entire demand level within a day, which is pretty incredible. But I mean, if that's going to happen, it's going to happen with some insanely high volume, and that's exactly what happened. It's the highest volume day we've seen since January 2022, which is kind of important right here. It's the highest volume we've seen since January 2022. Now for my predictions, again, keep in mind we are sitting on top of this long-term trend line. I really do think we're going to get a bounce off this trend line and possibly just dance around in this demand zone until CPI comes out. That would be what I presume is going to happen. I don't think we're going to bust through. I don't think we're going to get some crazy bounce off this trend line on Monday and retest this upwards trend line. I don't think that's going to happen all in one day. That would be quite volatile ahead of a very volatile day, which is CPI. So I don't think that's going to happen necessarily, but if it does, but I think we just bounce kind of around this demand zone, leading CPI. And eventually, though, I do expect that we do retest this 395 level, which concludes with this upwards trend line that was containing the bear market rally. I do believe typically when SPY breaks a key trend line, it does in the coming days want to retest that. And more than likely not, it's going to fail on the retest. That's what can lead us to eventually breaking through this trend line. Then we get another retest, and then we make new lows. Then run away new lows. That's how the market goes. Market doesn't just go straight up and straight down. It likes to be very trappy, punishing early bears, early bulls, whatnot. So again, I expect a decent, somewhat bounce on Monday. Nothing crazy, but just kind of dance around in this demand zone. Waiting CPI. Now, depending on where CPI takes us, um, you know, my long term, my low of the week prediction is going to be 376. My high of the week is going to be 400. So it's a pretty big range. We're sitting literally in the middle of that range. We get two trend lines that are kind of containing price action as well, and we're sitting within a demand zone. It's an interesting day. It's going to be an interesting week. Very volatile week. But I do favor we get a somewhat bounce again, dance around the demand zone. CPI releases, propels us up here possibly to get a retest of this trend line. I think we fail. And then, that's kind of my trade plan for this week is just to play a bounce into this area. My risk is going to be a break below the trend line, possibly play a couple point bounce throughout this area. And if we get all the way up to this trend line, that's a clear sell indicator for me. I'm going to sell this. And again, risk is going to be a break above, hold above this trend line. But again, keep in mind that OPEX is 400. Don't be surprised if Wall Street, if CPI somehow comes off cooler than expected. I doubt it really, but we've seen the market rally off bad CPI news before, so market's very irrational. And if Wall Street wants the most profit, most bang for its buck, it's going to close it on this 400 level at the end of this week. We got a lot of bearish sentiment going around on Twitter. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope it gave you a different perspective. Actually, before we exit, let's take a look at VIX. This is also very interesting. So, volatility index. We go to, I actually previously charted out the monthly chart, if it just looks somewhat cleaner. So here's what we got on the monthly chart. This is going all the way back to 2017, 2018 levels. And we recently had VIX bounce straight off this bottom part of this pennant. And it did. It held, bounced from 17, up 17 and a half, and currently we're at 24, 25. We hit a high this week, intra-month, I guess you could say intra-week, for 29 almost, which is 230 this week. I don't know. We'll find out. That's just a look at VIX. Keep your open mind here. This is kind of what we're looking at with the volatility index. So again, it's going to be a volatile week, so we'll see what happens here. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and hopefully it gave you a different perspective. Hopefully you guys can drop your thesis in the comments below. If you guys agree or disagree with mine, I'd love to hear why or why not. It's open to new ideas. It's all about noticing things that maybe we didn't notice, but other people did. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching.